The Spanish Protectorate in Morocco was established on the 27th of November 1912 by a treaty between France and Spain that converted the Spanish sphere of influence into a formal protectorate. The Spanish Protectorate consisted of a northern strip of the Protectorate on the Mediterranean and a southern part of the Protectorate bordering the Spanish Sahara. The northern zone was retroceded to an independent Morocco on the 7th of April 1956, shortly after France had ceded her protectorate. Spain finally ceded her southern zone through the Treaty of Angra de Cintra around Cintra Bay on the 1st of April 1958, only after the short High Fni War. Since France already held a protectorate over the entire country and controlled Morocco's foreign affairs, it also held the power to delegate its zone to Spanish protection. The surface area of the zone was about 20,948 square kilometers, which represents 4.69% of modern-day Morocco. History. Formation. In a convention dated the 27th of June 1900, France and Spain agreed to recognize separate zones of influence in Morocco, but did not specify the boundaries. In 1902, France offered Spain all of Morocco north of the Cebu River and south of the Sioux River, but Spain declined in the belief that such a division would offend Britain. The British and French, without any Spanish insistence, declared Spain's right to a zone of influence in Morocco in Article 8 of the Entente Cordiale of 8 April 1904. The two governments, inspired by the feeling of sincere friendship for Spain, take into special consideration the interests which that country derives from her geographical position and from her territorial possessions on the Moorish coast of the Mediterranean. In regard to these interests, the French government will come to an understanding with the Spanish government. The agreement which may be come to on the subject between France and Spain shall be communicated to His Britannic Majesty's government. What exactly special consideration meant was dealt with in the secret 3rd and 4th articles, specifying that Spain would be required to recognize Articles 4 and 7 of the treaty but could decline the special consideration if she wished. The two governments agree that a certain extent of Moorish territory adjacent to Melilla, Ceuta, and other presides should, whenever the Sultan ceases to exercise authority over it, come within the sphere of influence of Spain, and that the administration of the coast from Melilla as far as but not including the heights on the right bank of the Cebu shall be entrusted to Spain. The British goal in these negotiations with France was to ensure that a weaker power held the strategic coast opposite Gibraltar in return for Britain ceding all interest in Morocco. France began negotiating with Spain at once, but the offer of 1902 was no longer on the table, since France had given up her ambitions in Ottoman Libya in a convention with Italy in 1903. She felt entitled to a greater share of Morocco. On the 3rd of October 1904, France and Spain concluded a treaty that defined the precise zones. Spain received a zone of influence consisting of a northern strip of territory and a southern strip. The northern strip did not reach to the border of French Algeria, nor did it include Tangier, soon to be internationalized. The southern strip represented the southernmost part of Morocco as recognized by the European powers. The territory to its south, Xiquet el Hamra, was recognized by France as an exclusively Spanish zone. The treaty also recognized the Spanish enclave of Ifni and delimited its borders. In March 1905, the German Kaiser, Wilhelm II, visited Tangier, a city of international character in northern Morocco. He loudly touted Germany's economic interests in Morocco and assured the Sultan of financial assistance in the event of a threat to Moroccan independence. At Wilhelm's urging, Sultan Abdelaziz called for an international conference. The final act of the Algeciras Conference created the State Bank of Morocco, guaranteed the attending powers equal commercial rights in Morocco, and created a native Moroccan police force led by French and Spanish officers. The final Spanish zone of influence consisted of a northern strip and a southern strip centered on Cape Juby. The consideration of the southern strip as part of the protectorate back in 1912 eventually gave Morocco a solid legal claim to the territory in the 1950s, while the sparsely populated Cape Juby was administered as a single entity with Spanish Sahara. The northern territories were administered separately as a Spanish protectorate with its capital at Tetuan. The protectorate system was established in 1912. The Islamic legal system of Xiquet was formally maintained. The Moroccan Sephardi Jews, many of them living in this part of the Maghreb after being expelled from Spain and Portugal in 1492 and 1497, respectively after the end of the Reconquista process, flourished in commerce, profiting from the similarity of Spanish and Ladino language and benefiting from the tax-exempt area in Tangier and a flourishing trading activity in the area. Rif War. Following the First World War, the Republic of the Rif, led by the guerrilla leader Abd el-Krim, was a breakaway state that existed from 1921 to 1926 in the Rif region, when it was subdued and dissolved by joint expedition of the Spanish Army of Africa and French forces during the Rif War. Controversy in Spain over the early conduct in the war was a driving factor behind the military coup by General Miguel Primo de Rivera in 1923, which foreshadowed the Spanish Civil War of 1936–39. After the successful 1925 Alhucemas landing, the French-Spanish alliance ended up achieving victory and putting an end to the war. Second Spanish Republic. Before 1934, the southern part of the protectorate was governed from Cape Juby. Since 1912, Cape Juby was also head of the Spanish West Africa. Then, in 1934, the southern part began to being managed directly from Tetuan, and the seat of the Spanish West Africa was moved from Cape Juby to the territory of Ifni, which had been occupied by the Spaniards that year. Spanish Civil War. The Spanish Civil War started in 1936 with the only partially successful coup against the Republican government, marked in Africa by an uprising of the Spanish troops stationed there. These troops, which recruited a considerable number of Moroccan troops to the cause, were under the command of Francisco Franco and became the core of the Spanish Nationalist Army. The Communist Party of Spain and Workers' Party of Marxist Unification advocated anti-colonial policies, and pressured the Republican government to support the independence of Spanish Morocco, intending to create a rebellion at Franco's back and cause disaffection among his Moroccan troops. The government, then led by the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party, rejected that course of action as it would have likely resulted in conflict with France, the colonial ruler of the other portion of Morocco, because the local Muslim troops had been among Franco's earliest supporters. The protectorate enjoyed more political freedom than Franco's Spain proper after Franco's victory. The area held competing political parties and a Moroccan nationalist press which often criticized the Spanish government. World War II. Spanish troops provisionally occupied Tangier during World War II on the pretext that an Italian invasion was imminent. Retrocession to Morocco. In 1956, when France ended its protectorate over Morocco, Spain discontinued the protectorate and retroceded the territory to the newly independent kingdom, while retaining the plazas de soberania, Cape Juby, Ifni, and other colonies outside of Morocco. Unwilling to accept this, the Moroccan Army of Liberation waged war against the Spanish forces. In the 1950s,
1858 Ifni War, which spread from Sidi Ifni to Rio de Janeiro. Morocco gained Tafar and reduced the Spanish control of the Ifni territory to the perimeter of the city itself. In 1969, through negotiation, Morocco obtained Ifni as well. As of 2015, Morocco still claims Ceuta and Melilla as integral parts of the country, and considers them to be under foreign occupation. Comparing the status to that of Gibraltar. Economy. Mines. The iron mines in the Rif were one of the sources of income. Their exploitation led to an economic boom in Melilla. Transport. After the Treaty of Algeciras signed in April 1906, where the northern part of Morocco was placed under Spanish administration, the Spanish started to develop this mineral-rich area, and numerous narrow-gauge railways were built.